Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today we are reading a few horror stories for you all. Wonderful, spooky, and spine-chilling. If you enjoy, remember to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Now without further ado, let's get started, shall we? My neighbor was shot by the police, but no one remembers it. Written by OCD Incarnate. Back in November, I woke to sirens and screaming. I looked out of the window and cops were everywhere, each of them surrounding the yellow house across the street from me, with their pistols drawn, going from door to door, evacuating my neighborhood. I couldn't even begin to tell you how surreal it was to hear the cacophony of gunfire that killed Gary as the whole neighborhood walked down the street, children's blankets dragging behind. Gary, the sweet old man, overpaid me to shovel snow into his driveway when I was a kid. Gary, the guy who gave full-sized candy bars on Halloween. Gary, the man who ran into a burning house to save a family's dog. The case was all over national news. Woman escapes elderly serial killer in small Kansas town. Bodies in the basement. Gary's House of Horrors. Gary motivation appears to be ideological in nature, says the police. I read it all obsessively, trying to understand how a man I considered my friend my whole life could do the things he had done. Gary had grown up in that house and moved back in when he inherited it from his parents. They found a total of 27 bodies spanning 50 years, meaning he began killing at merely 13 years old. The oldest few corpses were all middle school aged, and were found buried in a rose garden, one I'd helped him weed on one or more occasions. 5 more were found under a secret door in his floorboards. I felt sick knowing I had walked over that door multiple times. The rest were found in boxes in his basement, in bags full of lye. Boxes my mother had helped him stack when he's enlisted the family's help in organizing his basement after his beloved wife Loretta had died of ALS. It must have been months that his house was taped off. His escapees' bloody handprints weren't washed off for at least a week, and the blood pooled on his front porch from the gunfire that stayed just as long. Today I woke up to see Gary walking up to his mailbox as always. I thought I was dreaming, but I felt all the pinches I gave myself, and I couldn't wake myself up no matter what means I tried. I watched him from the window all morning as he tended to his yard as always. He even went to our neighbor's house to borrow a gardening tool. They didn't seem surprised at all to see him. I began to rifle through the memories. There were no goddamn way these details could be a dream. I watched from my window as they taped off the scene. I saw the first skull excavated from the dirt of the rose garden with my own 2 eyes. I had cried to my therapist recounting hearing his death, struggling to understand how I could feel grief over a man so evil. I know it fucking happened. I searched the names of the 3 victims that had been identified. All were real missing people from my general area. All of them looked exactly as they had in the news articles I had printed out that seemed to no longer exist in neither my home or the internet. I had never seen them before Gary's crimes were exposed. I've been carefully watching Gary's movements all days. He recently retired and he spends all of his time outside. If I really am crazy or I really did dream all of this up, how can I explain to him why I'm digging a gigantic hole in his cherished rose garden? How can I reasonably explain why I've broken into his home to explore his basement? He's an incredibly light sleeper. I know this because he was very nosy and would gossip about things he'd seen the neighbors do late at night. And when he's not asleep, he's wandering around. He never really sits down, and ever since one of the neighbors showed him Instacart and Uber, he never leaves. Can I file a tip? Say I saw the bodies in an old man's basement or something? The cops around here know Gary, so I doubt they'd believe it, or bother to check, and they know me too, so it would be impossible to do so anonymously. Do any of you have any ideas? I can't stop hearing the waters at 3 a.m. I'm lying in bed, eyes wide open, counting the eerie dancing shadows cast by the trees and tens of other whatnots on the wall in front of me. It is a dimly lit night in the new moon, and yet the fading moonlight managed to sneak through the gaps in the curtains, bathing the room in its pale luminescence. There's the sound of water. Among the clock, the crickets, and the rattles of the freight apartment, there is a foreign sound, and what had knocked me out of my sleep: water. It isn't the rain or the sewage that runs too close to my window, but more of a at-late-night shower from an apartment upstairs, which takes place at a very questionable time and has lasted for an alarmingly long period. I look at my phone. It's 3 o'clock in the morning on a normal Monday night, meaning that nobody should be taking a shower. Still, the sound of the water falling, splashing, rippling slowly, steadily, annoyingly, coming to me through the ceiling above my head. I turn again, this time to the opposite side, only to find myself facing a worse direction. The closed wardrobe door, dark and wooden, silent and looming over me, threatening like a wicked giant monster. I built the wardrobe myself, and yet right at that moment, I can sense my skin jumping at its familiarity. I sigh and return to my back, lying face up, eyeing the ceiling. I can vaguely picture the pipes hidden behind the wood and the cement, above my apartment, but beneath the one upstairs, seeing with my imagination the water running through them and causing the noise that startled my sleep. I was in the middle of a nightmare and yanked back to reality when I heard it. The nightmare was far from pleasant, but right now I want nothing more than to be able to get back there. I was involved in a ritual with some of my friends, offering a demon blood with the promise to never lie. Except I lied. I was just a stupid ritual game, and I didn't think much, and apparently the absence of a thorough conscience comes with a hefty price. The demon hunts me down, a typical dream chase. I was cornered and looking right at it, and I was terrified. It was a dream, but it was vivid. The demon had a long tongue, twisted limbs, and a bent neck. Its skin is like a printing paper, veins of blood running all over the place. As soon as the demon opened its mouth to talk, I heard the sounds of water. It makes my hair grow thinking about it. The demon has the voice of a running shower, and the water doesn't stop. If anything, it only gets louder, now that my focus is solely fixed on it. The splash of the shower hitting the floor, the glub of the flow going down the drain, the burbles when it rushes through the pipes, the echo as it ripples above the ceiling, and the repeat of the whole damn cycle, all of them blaring and drilling, constantly torturing my ears. I have no idea why someone in their right mind would think of this as a good time for a shower, let alone one that has lasted far longer than necessary. None of them seems to make any sense to me, and at some point I feel the urge to go check if their residents are all right enough to be let alone with a shower running freely for that long. I end up doing nothing, however. A part of me knows that there's nobody crazy enough to take a shower, or nobody at all seen anyone living there since I moved here. The remaining part of me knows something else, that the water has something to do with me, alone, probably connected to my nightmare, precisely with the demon to whom I offered my blood and promised not to lie, only to do this same exact forbidden thing. That's why I stay inside my apartment, enveloped by the mess of a room, curling up into a ball and hanging onto the faint hope that the axe somehow mutes the foreign sound of water. Much to my surprise and dismay, it doesn't. If not, my efforts have somehow made the volume grow louder than before. I reach up with the fingers spread out, instinctively grabbing my earlobes, trying to block the sound away. It seems like something a coward would do, but I don't care. I let my ears be covered and close my eyes in a failed attempt to escape reality and lure myself back to the nightmare, only to be stirred up and startled again by the increasing volume of that damn cycle. Splash, glub, ripple, echo, splash, glub, ripple, echo. It isn't until then that do I realize the water doesn't sound like something from outside, but more like a reverberation of what seemed to be stored and buried inside of me. I don't know how long I've stayed in that position, but as the realization makes me swing off the blanket and sit up with my feet on the floor, my body's all sweaty. A wise person would call in, preferably the cops or the hospital, for an emergency. I just freeze. I'm that stupid, what can I say? I look up above my head and wait, engulfing myself in the sound of water, which stands out against the silence of my room, against anything that's a part of reality. I hear it loud and clear, and feel each inch of my body clenching to it. My fingers are buried into the soft fabric of my mattress. My toes dig deeper into the wooden floor. My eyes are urged to shut, but painfully stay open. My throat is stuffed with a lump, and my heart sinks, almost as if it has stopped functioning. And then, with almost an abrupt halt of the heartbeat, I missed blink of my dry and burning eyes. Without any sign, warning, or expectation, the water suddenly stopped. It happened without me even fully acknowledging it during the first seconds. And it takes me a while to come to realize that the sounds that knocked me out of my sleep are now gone. The usual silence of the night returns, so clear that I can hear my unsettling heartbeats and ragged breath. Then the familiar crickets, wind rustles, and house rattles dominate my hearing again, as if they weren't just toppled a few seconds ago by the bizarre sound of a late-night shower. It seems who, or whatever decided to do it, has realized the stupidity and health hazard of their actions. So instead of going with the nonsense flow, they turned off the shower, like a normal and functioning human who gives a damn about their well-being. They should be in bed then, now that I hear no noise that interferes with the usual and natural sounds of whatever is coming to life at 3ish in the morning. It should be the most probable thing to do at this hour, also the most logical explanation to what had taken place in the apartment upstairs, and yet something inside me isn't fully convinced. My instinct spikes here and there, trying to remind me of something I don't want to remember. My eyes still burning, my throat feels stuffy, and my heart remains seized with invisible force I can't name. I ignore the feelings and release them one by one through my deep sighs as I collapse on the mattress, letting my body be sucked into the sweaty pile of blanket and pillow. From the corner of my eyes, I see the clock on my nightstand. It is 4 a.m, meaning roughly an hour has passed. Somebody upstairs, who shouldn't have been there in the first place, had just taken an almost 2-hour-long shower, letting the water flow constantly, and I have no idea why they abruptly ended it. Or do I? As I look at the wardrobe I built myself, the eerie feeling returns. The nightmare's image filled my head bit by bit. It was a nightmare, but it was also a reflection of reality. I played a horror ritual game with my friends. We weren't allowed to lie. I lied. Pieces of memories return. I lied. So my friends died. We all hid in the wardrobe and got killed there. So that's why earlier I found it uncanny. My friends all died, but the demons spared me somehow. Maybe there's a hidden rule that the liar prevails in the game, and all of us were simply illiterate enough to miss it. Maybe I did something to help myself through it. Maybe I made a deal with the demon so that my friends had to go first and I was allowed to remain. My head turns empty. Everything starts to blur again, and I'm not sure if it'd come back someday. But there's one thing I remember for sure. I had blood all over my body. I had to take a shower. The game ended with my friend's death at 3 in the morning. And that is when I started removing the blood. This story was written by Avian Hohen. That is the end of today's video. If you all enjoyed the stories I had for you, remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and maybe check out the playlist of horror stories I have for you. I will see you all next time. Farewell, my friend. Until next time.